colleagues for introducing themselves, so let's get stuck in. I will pick people as they indicate for a question. We'll try and get us through as many as we can. We'll keep it equitable by taking someone from each block and then just come back again. So I'll take someone over on this side first. Yes, the gentleman in the sort of cream beige shirt. Yes, you, sir.
Hi, I'm Doug Mitchell. I represent the Citizens Electoral Council. Prime Minister, why are we escalating militarily with the US in a way that is alarming our biggest trading partner, China, which if they weren't buying our resources, our economy would be the worst in the world? Why are you pushing Australia to war with China? And if you say you're not, why on earth are we doing this militarily with the US?
Well, thank you for your question. I'm very confident that as the future of this century unfolds, Australia can find itself with a strong ally in the United States, but also with a friend in China, a friend in Beijing, and a strong trading partner. I don't think it's an either-or choice. We are certainly engaged with China in every way, at every level, and the nature of our economic partnership has just grown and grown. We continue to have a wonderful relationship with the United States, including our very long-standing defence relationship. As the most recent move forward in that defence relationship, we are welcoming Marines for rotational deployment and training into the Northern Territory. That is a significant thing, but it shouldn't be over-interpreted or over-analysed. We're talking about, when it's in full operation, 2,500 Marines coming to Australia for part of the year for training. So I don't think people need to worry about how that's going to be interpreted in our region. So we can get on doing both, and we are. So we'll take a question from this block here. Yes, if I can take the young man here. Yes, you, sir.
Hello, my name is Roman Kapichnikov. I'm currently in Year 11 at St Francis Xavier College.
Something tells me this is going to be a really hard question now you've said that.
Yes, well, it will be a hard question. I'm asking, I will be in university in less than 2 years, and I'm asking, why are you introducing compulsory student unionship when it was abolished by the Howard government? Why are you putting extra pressures on university students that are already, taxed with such heavy pressures of uni?
Okay.
Why?
I can answer that for you. The Howard government did abolish compulsory student unions, and the experience of that in universities around the nation was a lot of services that students relied on were no longer available because they were provided those services through student unions. For many campuses, that caused real difficulties with lack of sporting services, lack of welfare services, including student support and housing. So we have moved to a situation where a fee will be able to be levied in order to support those student services at our universities. But at the same time, we have expanded student income support. There has never been a more generous system of student income support than there is now for students in universities, and we are growing universities, so there are more people getting the opportunity to go to university than ever before. And I'm very proud to say, as a Labor government, we've made sure that more kids from poorer backgrounds are getting to uni than ever before. So more student support, more places, an important investment in our universities for the future. Another important thing for students, which is under-recognised, many students balance up their study with part-time work. We will triple the tax-free threshold from the 1st of July, which means you'll be able to earn $18,200 and not pay any tax. There will be a lot of students that's a great benefit for, and they will move out of the tax system, no longer have to pay tax on the earnings they're relying on to get them through university. So we'll move to a question here. Yes, the lady in the pink.
Hi, my name's Sarah Day. Good evening, Prime Minister. My question is in regards to public education. Given the findings of the Gonski report, but also research coming from successful PISA countries. What is the federal government's vision for education in the long term, given that we are moving towards a slightly more nationalised education system?
I feel like saying how long have you got, because I could keep you here all night talking about this, and then when I ran out of voice, Peter Garrett could talk the rest of the night. But to put it as simply as possible, our vision for school education is that we are offering the best quality. So our kids are getting a world-class education, but we are offering that best quality to all children. So you referred to PISA. PISA tests are tests that kids do at around 15 years of age. Kids do them all around the world, and then the results get compared. And what we know from those international tests is, whilst we've got a pretty good system by the standards of the world, we are not in the highest top 5 performing school systems, and 4 of those top performing school systems are in our region. So they're going to be the countries that we continue to compete with, and compete with more intensively in the future to earn our way in the world. So we can't have our kids falling behind the standards of our competitor countries. So that's concerning. What's equally concerning is our results show that disadvantaged kids in Australia tend to miss out on a good education. And international testing also shows it doesn't have to be like that. Other people manage to run their education systems so that poor kids still get a great education. So we're driving a whole suite of reforms so we do better, lift quality for everyone, and we make sure that poorer kids get a great education too. That's what our investments in teacher quality have been about, in disadvantaged schools, our investments in literacy and numeracy. That's why we've created the transparency of My School, so all of us can understand where excellence is and where problems are. That's why when we needed to create jobs in this country, we invested in schools first through the Building the Education Revolution program. It's why we're putting computers into classrooms to keep lifting quality. It's why we want a national curriculum that lifts quality around the nation. And we've still got some more to do. And the more that we're doing now is looking at school funding in a really systematic way around the country, led by Mr Gonski through the Gonski Review. And we're also working to empower great school principals like Jan, so that they get more ability to drive their school and drive the quality in their school. So it's a big reform agenda, and we're pretty proud of it. And Peter, I promise I'll give you the next education question. Okay, we'll take a question from over here. I'll take the young lady with a pinkish shirt on and what looks like a brown cardigan. That's you. Sorry, pinkish scarf, I should have said.
Hi, my name is Erin Bradshaw. I was just asking, because you have considered Casey Cardinia as one of the growing regions, how come we've missed out on the National Broadband Network?
I just happen to have brought the world's biggest expert with me, so I'll defer to him, Stephen Conroy.
Look, thanks very much. Everywhere I go in Australia, the question that people ask me, apart from why do you support Collingwood, is why haven't you connected my house yet? About 18 months ago...
Well, I think they ask why hasn't the National Broadband Network been to their house yet, yes. Not so much you, but...
True. But about 18 months ago, the government put forward a proposal in conjunction with the NBN company that we should build the NBN using what is referred to, and apologies for some of the technical jargon here, 14 points of interconnect. A number of companies took the government to the ACCC, our competition regulator, and said they thought that was unfair and that there should be a greater number. The ACCC discussed it, went through all of its processes and made a decision that the NBN should be built using 121 points of interconnect. What that meant was they then went on to pick exactly where those 121 points of interconnect are. And unfortunately, in your region, where they picked, and what happens is we start there and we fan out. But they picked the points that essentially, I mean, there are other engineering factors, but at the core, they picked around Bayswater, around Glen Waverley, around Dandenong, and around Cranbourne. And So we start building the network from that point, and we roll outwards concentrically, if you like, unless you hit a natural barrier like a river or something like that. So the starting points were dictated by engineering factors that largely relied on a decision by our competition regulator. So I'd love to be able to tell you I could change the ACCC's mind. They took my points of view into account, the governments and the NBN Co, and they made that decision. But every Australian will get the national broadband network. Because you're not in the first 3-year build, do not think you're not going to get it. There's only one thing that will ultimately stop you getting the national broadband network, and that is if a Liberal government does what Tony Abbott says he's going to do to it, and that is demolish the national broadband network.
Thank you. So we'll take a question from this block here. Yes, we'll take the lady just in the middle here, just past the divide. That's you, yes.
Good evening, Prime Minister. My name's Lee Fuller and I'm from Emerald for Sustainability, and we are big supporters of renewable energy. Solar power is lowering wholesale electricity prices around the world, yet we are, at present, not building big solar here in Australia, the sunniest country on earth. The Clean Energy Finance Corporation could help bring down electricity prices by building big solar. So my question is, would you support the Clean Energy Finance Corporation to build at least 2,000 megawatts of big solar?
Okay, thank you. I'll ask Greg Combay to talk about that and also talk about some of the big solar we've already funded before we created the Clean Energy Finance Corporation.
Well, the first thing is that the introduction of the carbon price will drive a lot of investment in renewable energy because it makes it more competitive in financial terms. The second thing is that we've also got a renewable energy target that has been legislated that will provide for 20% of our electricity supply to come from renewable energy sources by the year 2020 in just 8 years' time, and that's going to drive those two things in combination. We anticipate about $19 billion worth of investment in renewable energy over the next 8 years, a very significant amount. A lot of that will be wind power, but some of it will be in solar technologies as well. In addition to that, we have other programs that offer significant grants for investments in large-scale renewable projects, and there are a couple on the drawing boards for very large-scale solar projects, one in northern New South Wales and one in Queensland. You've mentioned the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. That's a corporation that the government is establishing in which we will invest $10 billion, and that corporation will have a role of bringing together private finance partners and investors as well in large-scale renewable energy projects. So I guess we're at the start of a significant journey in trying to achieve the goals that you've articulated, and the government's very strongly supportive of them, and we've taken a lot of practical measures to achieve them.
Thank you. Thanks for your question. So we'll take a question out of the block here. I'll take the gentleman right at the back. Yes, you, sir.
Good evening, Prime Minister. My name is Chana Di Costa. My question is actually for Honourable Minister Mr. Bill Shorten. Honourable Minister, my question is, what steps have been taken by your ministry to encourage private sector employers to recruit the workforce from ethnic minority background? I raised this question because I'm an Australian citizen and I haven't had a fair go. That's the very reason I asked this question. What legislative steps you have been taken so far from your ministry? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Bill.
Thanks very much. First thing is, too many, well not too many, but some employers in Australia have a view that because you look different or sound different, indeed not just ethnicity, but perhaps they think that because you've celebrated your 50th birthday, perhaps they think you're too old. Some people think that because you have an impairment, that somehow you wouldn't fit in or that you're contagious. That we can all catch a wheelchair. Some people say, look at people and look at their gender and say, well, this is, we don't want women or we don't want people of a certain type. So the first thing I would say to you is that Australia cannot afford to not encourage diversity in the workplace. And that isn't just a question about reflecting your customers and communities, because your customers and communities come in all shapes and packages, and smart businesses will line up their business with their profile of their customers. But it's also because so many different people can add so much to your business. Australia, despite what some would say, we are an immigrant nation. And other than Georgina and the Welcome to Country, most Australians came here from somewhere else, and all of us will have had ancestors who wanted to be given a better go than what they may have received when they first got here. So the first point I'd make to you before I get into government programs and policies is you should never give up. This country, despite the occasional bad behaviour, is a tolerant, diverse, generous society, and all of the ministers up here regularly go to citizenship events, and anyone who's ever been to a citizenship event realise that the immigrants who take up Australian citizenship are at least as good as anyone who's been here before them. The second thing is that we certainly have a range of discrimination laws which go to the Attorney General's area. When we reformed the unfair dismissal laws, we've also given the opportunity for people to take adverse interest claims, so that if you think you've lost your job for certain causes which are unrelated to your performance, you have more rights than you used to have under the previous government. I think, though, that when we get to the point that you make about opportunities, and I don't know your personal circumstances, but I'm happy to talk to you afterwards, where job programs, do they cater for people who might not have qualifications recognised in Australia, but they qualified overseas, and they might be working in a factory packing boxes when in fact they're trained as an accountant or in some other background. I do think that we need to lift our performance there. I met with a gentleman before this meeting in a one-on-one interview, and it does strike me that in our employment programs, we probably need to give some consideration to what we do to give migrants, and we do have some programs, but to give migrants not a better opportunity than anyone else, but to make sure that they get the same opportunity as everyone else. That's a general answer. It sounds like you've got some specific issues you may wish to raise, and I'd be happy to meet with you after this meeting. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for that question. We'll go back to the block over here. I'll take the young lady towards the back in black jumper I think you have on.
Just wondering if there's any significant plans to improve the mental health system, in particular teenage mental health programs. At the moment, there's a significant issue with teenage suicide, and I just feel there's just not enough support or programs available, particularly for that age group.
Thank you. Thanks for that question. You raise an incredibly important issue, and one that we responded to, not in the budget that's just been, but the budget before, very much guided by the work of Pat McGorry, a leading Victorian, someone who's been Australian of the Year, and who has generated models of providing assistance through headspace centres and then through what are called epic centres to help people get the assistance they need, because his work shows that if you can make a difference for a young person early, then it will make a difference for all of the rest of their lives. I'll see if Tanya can just go through some of the details of that with you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. As the Prime Minister said in the not the last budget last week, but the one before, we put a significant investment into mental health of around $200 million nationally, which translated to about $40 million for Victoria. And on top of the projects that the Prime Minister was talking about that are nationwide projects that Victoria will see its share of, there are a number of projects that the Victorian Government will do with the money that the Commonwealth has provided, including a homelessness project which will provide assertive mental health outreach support, care coordination, case management to people who are experiencing entrenched homelessness. Mental health support for secure tenancies, which is another effort to, unfortunately, very many people who are homeless because of mental illness or develop a mental illness while they're homeless. A third project is psychiatric assessment and planning units, which are capital funding for 4-bed short stay psychiatric assessment units. And the fourth project is a mental health hospital admission risk program, which will try and prevent people who have mental health